This scary story took place in a rural area where there was a frightening place for the villagers, the shooting range. Every time seeing the children rushing to the edge of the forest, people would immediately guess that another criminal was about to be executed. Children and even adults also pulled together to the edge of the forest to see the wicked being punished. It could be said that the children in this village came here for the primary purpose not to see the execution of criminals, but to pick up shiny bullet casings to bring them back. Among them was a boy named Sun. For some reason, as soon as people looked into his face changed. It turned out that the person who was about to be shot was Sun's neighbor. That girl had grown up with him and was the one who treated him very well. But what he couldn't imagine was, why would such a kind, gentle person be a criminal accused of death? But even if Sun didn't believe it, he had to believe it because in front of him were two policemen, guns in hand and ready to shoot. Moreover, on the wooden plaque worn on the chest of prisoners with their names engraved, how could it be confused? The other sinner was worried, holding her breath, waiting for death as much as Sun was so nervous. His face was blank. He couldn't say a word. And whatever came would come. The gunfire resounded throughout the forest. The birds panicked and flew away, breaking the quiet atmosphere. While Sun stood still thinking, other children, after the gunshots rang out, hurriedly searched for precious bullet casings. One of them, just a few minutes later, was holding a bullet shell in his hand, with a happy face, loudly boasting to his friends. While the other child happily laughed, Sun, at that time in another corner, did not know what he saw, but his face was extremely strange. It turned out that in front of Sun's eyes was a pink hairpin, but there was no girl here who was brave enough to come and watch the execution. So whose hairpin was this? Out of curiosity, he bent down and carefully brought the clip up to eye level to observe. It looked quite old, like it had been used many times. Thinking for a long time, suddenly Sun's face darkened. If he remembered correctly, it must be the hairpin of the girl who was shot earlier. At that moment, the boy who had just picked up the bullet just now thought that Sun had obtained the bullet and ran to ask. As soon as he saw his friend coming, Sun quickly brought the hairpin to hide behind his back, stammering and saying that he still hadn't picked up anything. Seeing Sun's strange appearance, the other child felt a little weird, but didn't care much and followed him back. When the two children got home, the sun had already gone down behind the mountain. After returning home, Sun didn't say anything and went straight to the bedroom. At this time, lying on the bed, Sun immediately brought out the hairpin he had picked up earlier. His eyes filled with tears, thinking about his neighbor. Thinking of this, he immediately put the hairpin under his pillow in memory of the gentle neighbor who used to treat him very well. But it seemed that his hairpin could not bring Sun beautiful dreams, but instead, strange things. At midnight, Sun's face suddenly turned pale. His breath was panting as if someone was pressing him. Immediately after that were the strange sounds. The more he listened, the more they sounded like a scary moaning, crying sound. Sun's face was getting worse every day. His eyebrows were frowning, he couldn't breathe. Sweat had been dripping all over his shirt ever since. In the distance appeared a figure of a woman approaching. She became more and more visible with a horrifying face, two sunken black eye sockets. Not only that, but she stood in front of Sun's bed constantly moaning. Her hand with sharp claws was frequently directed at him. Then the woman rolled her eyes, opened her mouth wide, and rushed straight to where Sun was lying. Soon the scary girl's face was close to Sun's, making it harder and harder for him to breathe, his heart racing. Sun tried to struggle with all his strength, shouted loudly and opened his eyes. Hearing the screams of his parents in the next room, they rushed past. As soon as he saw them, Sun hugged his mother and cried. While crying, he kept repeating the words, "Ghost! Ghost!" With tears in his eyes, son told his mother that he had dreamt of their neighbor. Not only that, but she also attacked him. When son's mother heard about this, she was very worried. But son's father was different. He was extremely angry because he thought that he was talking nonsense. But seeing son's face more and more scared every time, the mother thought that maybe there was something hidden behind it. Then the mother leaned down, graciously reassuring son and asking about her. Hearing his mother asking about it, son did not hide anything, quietly putting his hand under the pillow. Then he took out the hairpin and said that he picked it up at the execution site, and this was what the neighbor had been wearing before she died. After hearing this, son's parents' faces darkened. Both panicked and were terrified. Son also said that the ghost kept asking for the hairpin. Knowing that this item belonged to the dead person, if he was not careful, the spirit of the dead would follow him forever. So the mother was extremely angry, yelling at him. Why did he go to pick these things up and take them home? The mother turned to her husband, told him to keep the hairpin and would handle it first thing in the morning. After saying that, son's father immediately took the hairpin to go out, and his mother gently hugged him and comforted him. Because son's mother was uneasy, she sat beside his bed for several hours until he fell asleep. She quietly went out. But unexpectedly, right after she left, son had a nightmare. He continued to dream about the neighbor with a horrific face. All that night, son's family could not sleep, and every once in a while they heard his panicky screams. One night of terror finally passed. The next morning, as soon as the sun came out, son's parents invited the village elder to come help. After hearing the story of a man who had dealt with many demonic affairs like him, he was also amazed.
A ghost possesses your son? If this was not resolved soon, he would be taken away by the ghost sooner or later.
Because everyone knew that picking up things from the dead is taboo, many people had to die for bringing items home with their soul. Although serious, it was not without a solution, especially for someone as experienced as the village elder. Following the village elder's instructions, son's father immediately went to buy some votive paper and took him to the place where the girl was executed yesterday. At that time, the father and son stopped at the place where son had picked up the hairpin. As soon as they arrived, they immediately felt a weighty, gloomy atmosphere. Immediately after that, son's father took out an old hairpin from his pocket and placed it on the grass in the correct place where it was yesterday. Then they used fire to burn some of the gold coins, muttering incessantly as if begging the ghost to spare his son. Son only dared to stand behind his father to observe, but his limbs were also trembling in fear. At that time they could only rely on the heart of the deceased neighbor. They just hoped she could forgive son. The father and son had just turned their backs when suddenly son felt like a cold wind passed by. Perhaps the ghost of that girl had let go of son. The father and son did what the village elder said. Indeed, it worked. From then on, the girl's soul no longer came to disturb son.